Welcome to OLevels Economics Unit 11, Price Elasticity of Demand. Price elasticity of demand measures how much the quantity demanded of a product changes when its price changes. It is calculated using the formula PED equals the percentage change in quantity demanded divided by the percentage change in price. To find PED, we must first calculate the percentage changes in demand and price. For example, if the quantity demanded increases from 200 to 240, when price falls from $10 to $9, the percentage change in quantity demanded is 20%. The percentage change in price is minus 10%. Dividing 20% by negative 10% gives a PED of negative 2. The PED value provides two key pieces of information. The sign, which is usually negative, shows the inverse relationship between price and demand. The size of the number shows how responsive demand is. A period of negative 2, for instance, means a 1% change in price will cause a 2% change in demand. Products can have elastic or inelastic demand. When demand is elastic, a small change in price causes a larger percentage change in quantity demanded, meaning the PED is greater than 1. For instance, if a product's price drops and demand rises sharply, total revenue increases because people buy much more. Elastic demand is usually represented by a flatter demand curve. In contrast, when demand is inelastic, the quantity demanded changes less than the price, meaning the PED is less than 1. In this case, price and total revenue move in the same direction. If price rises, total revenue also rises. Inelastic demand is represented by a steep demand curve, showing that consumers are less sensitive to price changes. There are also other degrees of elasticity. Perfectly elastic demand occurs when even a tiny increase in price causes demand to fall to zero. This usually happens in highly competitive markets, such as wheat farming, where buyers can easily switch suppliers. In this case, PAD is infinite, and the demand curve is horizontal. Perfectly inelastic demand is the opposite. Demand remains unchanged regardless of price changes. PED is zero, and the demand curve is vertical. Unit elastic demand occurs when the percentage change in price equals the percentage change in demand, giving a PED of 1. When this happens, total revenue remains unchanged as price changes. Several factors determine PED. The most important is the availability of substitutes. If close substitutes exist, demand is likely to be elastic because consumers can easily switch when prices rise. If no close substitutes exist, demand tends to be inelastic. The proportion of income spent on a product also matters. If a good takes up a small share of income, such as salt, demand will be inelastic because even large price changes make little difference to spending. But if a product takes up a large share of income, such as a car, demand will be more elastic, since price changes have a bigger effect on consumers' budgets. Necessities like soap have inelastic demand, while luxuries like designer clothes have elastic demand. Addictive products, such as cigarettes or coffee, also tend to be inelastic because consumers find it difficult to cut down, even when prices rise. Products whose purchases can be postponed, like phones or furniture, have elastic demand because people can wait for prices to drop. The more narrowly a product is defined, the more elastic demand tends to be. For example, demand for one brand of tea is more elastic than for tea in general. Finally, time affects elasticity. In the short term, demand is usually inelastic because consumers need time to adjust, but in the long run, demand becomes more elastic as people find alternatives. PED can differ over time and across countries. What was once considered a luxury can become a necessity as incomes rise. For example, mobile phones were once luxuries, but today most people consider them essential, making their demand less sensitive to price. Differences in culture and income levels also affect PED. For instance, demand for rice in Bangladesh is more inelastic than in the United States, where people have more alternative foods. Similarly, in India, where cricket is extremely popular, demand for cricket match tickets is more inelastic than in countries where the sport is less followed. The relationship between PED and total revenue is very important for producers. When demand is inelastic, total revenue moves in the same direction as price. Raising the price increases revenue. If demand is perfectly inelastic, total revenue changes by exactly the same percentage as price. When demand is elastic, total revenue moves in the opposite direction. Raising the price causes revenue to fall. In the case of perfectly elastic demand, any price increase reduces demand to zero, while with unit elasticity, total revenue stays constant no matter how the price changes. PED can also change with price levels and shifts in demand. As the price of a product rises, demand becomes more elastic because the higher price makes consumers more sensitive. As the price falls, demand becomes more inelastic because the change seems less significant. When demand increases, consumers become less sensitive to price, making demand less elastic. When demand decreases, consumers become more sensitive, making demand more elastic. For producers, understanding price elasticity of demand helps set prices that maximize revenue. If demand is inelastic, firms can raise prices to increase revenue. If it's elastic, lowering prices can boost sales and total revenue. Firms also use product differentiation through branding, quality, and features to make demand more inelastic and gain pricing power. For governments, taxing goods with inelastic demand, like petrol or cigarettes, helps raise more revenue, while taxing elastic goods is better for reducing consumption. Subsidies work best for elastic goods, like education or healthcare, to encourage greater use. For consumers, elastic markets with many substitutes lead to lower prices, better quality, and more competition among producers. In summary, price elasticity of demand, or PED, shows how much demand changes when price changes. When demand is elastic, consumers react strongly to price changes, usually because substitutes are available. When it's inelastic, demand barely changes, often for necessities or addictive goods. Over time, demand tends to become more elastic, and as prices rise, people respond more sensitively, while higher overall demand makes it less so. Thanks for watching.